Hello and welcome to this episode of WN Stuff. I'm your host, WN. Welcome to the Variety Channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So today we're going to be reacting to the Inktank remaking the original Ultimate Aliens. This is a drawing matrix video by O.R. Ash where we change the ultimate forms of aliens. I've been doing a lot of really fun Ben 10 videos, reactions. Lately I've been reacting to also they have a comic series that's a Danny Phantom Ben 10 crossover called 5 Years Later. I'm about to be on chapter 4 of that, so if that's something that intrigues you, please go check out those videos. I'll have them in the description below. Before we get into it, I am an artist and like to make music.
Point to fight now, specking lights all around. At the distance now, I am inbound. What's this all about? I just want to find peace of mind. I don't want to lose peace of mind. I just want to.
Hope you enjoyed that, and without further ado, let's get into this review. Reaction. Oh boy, oh boy. 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, Internet world and universe. This is O.R. Ash, and welcome back to the Drawing Matrix. A new year, new videos, and I got dibs on first. We are back once again to continue our Ultimates Overhauled series. Last time, we finished off the original series add-ons by covering the Halloween trio and the adjacent Anur aliens. This time around, we're going to be rounding off the base Alien Force playlist by redesigning the original Ultimates. Now, I've already given the Ultimate treatment to the other 4 Alien Force boys in a previous episode. Make sure you go check it out. It's pretty good. It's the first episode of this stuff. So all that's left are the 5 who have existing Ultimates already. Going into this episode, I had to have a slightly different mindset. I've redesigned existing Ultimates before, but this is the first and only episode that is all redesigns. But they're the designs that started the Ultimate gimmick, so I want to do them justice regardless. Today, I'll be redesigning Ultimates Humungousaur, Swampfire, Spider Monkey, Echo Echo, and Big Chill. Let's get into it.
Guess what time it is? It's hero time!
First up to bat, we have the alien that Ben has attempted to dial up the most throughout the franchise, Humungousaur! Humungousaur was the first alien to go ultimate in the entire franchise. Granted, it was albedo, but this spiky dino indirectly set the rules for all ultimates going forward, and those rules are a little inconsistent. But using him as an example is how I came up with the color swap and power trade-off rules that I use. His original ultimate turns green and loses the ability to grow in favor of missile-launching grippers. Despite the rest of the ultimates not following the same rules or aesthetic, I think having this be the first example of an ultimate at least sets a decent baseline for the gimmick itself, and I do enjoy that. But why the hell is he a giant turtle that shoots missiles? Like, legitimately, what the hell? Seeing this as a kid was so confusing, but also really hype. Looking at his design from an evolutionary perspective, you could say that he gains the shell to protect from tyrannopedes and his missile hands to combat turbocarians, but those things aren't introduced until later in Omniverse, and I doubt they really planned that far ahead. Overall, I'm just not a giant fan of his design. With my take on Ultimate Humungo, first off, I wanted to make him a pure creature of combat, solely so that he can live up to the scene of him fighting all of the other Humungousaurs. I made him a bit more lean and increased the size of his legs so that he can be a little bit faster and a lot more agile. I also massively increased his tail. Him using that as like his main attacking thing would be really cool and work really well with his massive size. Next are his scales, or armor, I guess. Base Humungousaur grows armor as he grows, but I thought if I'm getting rid of the growth power, which I am, I wanted the ultimate to have armor by default. So now he's covered head to toe in thick, solid scales that he can grow and manipulate around. This is also used to somewhat implement the shell that the original has, but in a more visually pleasing way. With this new scale manipulation ability, comboing this with his tail would make for some massive weapons like axes or wrecking balls that you kind of see from the original as well. Or something a bit more akin to Reboot Humungousaur's powers.
Tying it all in,
I wanted to give him an impact absorption ability, meaning he can take a hit and redirect the kinetic energy from it back out against his enemies. He would use this for some really mean punches and so he can fire off some of those scales like projectiles. And no, they don't explode. So, to recap, his new abilities include increased speed and agility, scale manipulation, and impact absorption and redirection. As far as trade-offs, he can no longer grow in size. Other than that, may I present my redesigned Ultimate Humungousaur that I dub Chainscale.
Chainscale. Solid name.
Ultimate Humungousaur.
I can see that in a big fight scene.
What's that smell? Is that me?
Next up, we have the quite literal late bloomer, Swampfire. Swampfire himself is a fan favorite to many, but his ultimate, on the other hand, well, let's just say people were more excited to see his new bloomed version in Omniverse. Personally,
That makes sense.
Ultimate Swamps is my favorite
from just
of
looking
the
at him.
ultimates, like the official ones. Trading out the
Really?
green, growing, viney body for a hardened wood one seemed like a decent evolutionary progression for a plant. Yeah, he can't regenerate anymore, but with his increased durability, that doesn't really matter. Also, giving him those weird methane-infused, like, chlorophyll or sap fruit things, whatever they are, I thought it was really cool. It indirectly shows what could have been a concentrated source of his firepower. Not to mention his encapsulated head is supposed to be kind of like a little design nod to his fellow fire flinger, Heat Blast. Anyway, with my redesign, I wanted to keep the overall aesthetic of the original, but just like, you know, zhuzh it up a little bit. As much as I enjoy the blue bulbs on him, a lot of people are confused as to what exactly they're supposed to be. So, the first thing I wanted to do was change how this material looks. I thought would be interesting to take inspiration from the real-life Spanish moss that grows on trees in swamps. That stuff seems like it would be very flammable. Plus, when stylizing it, I imagine I can make it look more like a plume of smoke rising up off of his head. And that would go along with the whole fire aspect to his design. His body, I am keeping made of wood though. I just think it works well. But I did definitely want to change his proportions. I wanted to make him a lot more tanky. It seems like they were headed that direction with his original design, but just didn't take it far enough. So, similar to the original, I gave him increased chest and head size, but to add on to the tankiness, I turned his arms into full-on tree trunk cannons. It's a plant with the power to make explosions, and tree trunks look like a similar shape to bazookas, so I don't know why they never really made that connection with this design to begin with. Also, with how big and slow I'm making him, I think it would be fun if he used smaller explosions from his feet to kind of fly around at short distances. Lastly, I wanted to add in some accent color, so I gave him a new thing called scatterbulbs. These are inspired by turkey tail mushrooms as well as sandbox tree seeds. Turkey tails grow on trees and they look like little weird discs.
Drawing
I think they
from
look
nature.
Cool as an aesthetic. And with the sandbox tree seeds, they are famously known to explode so that they can spread their seeds very far distances throughout the jungles and stuff. People have gotten really messed up by them. As far as Swampy's scatterbulbs, they're the same type of thing. They expel out a barrage of sharp, thorny seeds, as if you mix together like a shotgun and a grenade. So, to recap, as far as his new abilities, he now can generate a methane moss all over his body. He has giant tree trunk cannon arms, and he now has his little scatterbulb bombs.
Some cannons.
As far as his trade-offs, I'm making it to where he can no longer regenerate. I am also decreasing his mobility and making him very slow, because he is a much bigger boy than he used to be. Other than that, may I present to you my redesigned Ultimate Swampfire that I dub Blister Moss.
Ultimate Swampfire!
Nice.
Check it out! Hands free.
Now, we move on to the pun that was taken way too literally, Spider Monkey. Spider Monkey is an all-around pretty useful alien. But when a blowtorch went rogue, we were introduced to one of the most just nothing quote-unquote upgrades of the UAF era, and that is Ultimate Spider Monkey. Legitimately, I rank this guy in the same place as the Ultimate Wild Mutt or Way Big situations, where nothing really changed except their design, kind of. Ultimate Spider Monkey, they just replaced the monkey part with the gorilla.
Yeah, it just looks like a...
That's about it.
Like a cut,
I made a poll over on my
copy-and-paste
Twitter last
situation.
week asking people's least favorite ultimates and why. And amongst the most popular ultimates, Spider Monkey ranked last. And honestly, for good reason. To quote one of my favorite comments, he's just a fat purple gorilla on stilts. With my redesign, I wanted to make him feel a lot more beastly and a little scary, and definitely put a lot more color into his design. Rather than taking just gorillas and generic spiders, I based mine on tarantulas and an actual member of the monkey family, mandrills. Tarantulas are hairy, which fits with the whole, like, monkey look and aesthetic, and they come in a variety of really cool colors and patterns. And
Nice.
as far as the mandrills, well, the same reasoning. I imagined that the colorful patches that they have on their faces could look really alien for an ultimate alien if done correctly, and I
Makes
thought it just
sense.
paired really well with the tarantula theming. I gave him a very top-heavy body with long segmented tarantula arms to make him feel like he's constantly lurching over his enemies. Like the original Ultimate, he does use his
can see
arms to
that.
walk, but I gave him a full 8 arms, ditched the legs, and made him omnijointed.
Bye-bye legs,
meaning
added to
that
the
his
bucket.
arms can bend in any direction, making traversing super easy for him. Each of these arms will also feature colored patches of hair that, when touched, can cause paralysis and hysteria. He can also shed or rub these hairs off and hurl them at enemies, so that he has kind of a more projectile attack other than just his webbing. Lastly, I gave him 360 vision by splitting up his eye placement between his face and the bottom of his abdomen. His abdomen.
Okay.
He's got eyes on his ass. This is meant to play into
There
the
it
fact
is.
that mandrills have colorful rear ends. Also, because of these eyes, if you were to look at this Ultimate from behind, he just looks like a gigantic tarantula. So, to recap, as far as his new abilities, he now has a multi-jointed larger body. He has 4 additional arms,
All right.
360 vision, and paralytic hairs. As far as his trade-offs, he's still going to be losing his
The
tail.
paralytic
But
hairs
other
kind of
than
gives me
that,
the
may I
heebie-jeebies
present
a
to
little
you
bit.
my redesigned Ultimate Spider Monkey that I dub Bugaboon.
Bugaboon.
Ultimate Spider Monkey!
Hey, I'm all over it.
Next up, we have the one-man screamo band, Echo Echo.
Echo Echo.
I remember the original promos hyping up to Alien Force, and this transformation was one that I could not wait to see. Featuring both seemingly endless duplication
wanna make
and
a
sonic screaming powers, he
Screamo song.
baseline made Ditto and Benwolf
Echo Echo
seem
samples.
obsolete. And when they made Ultimate Echo Echo, I feel like they understood that they had to make him equally as cool. And honestly, they succeeded. A large amount of the fan base all agree that he is one of, if not the coolest Ultimate Alien. He even follows the rules of the gimmick, turning from white to blue and losing his duplication in turn for flight and his sonic discs. Now, with my redesign, I struggled just a little bit because honestly, I really like his design.
'Cause they did
And
so
that's saying
good.
a lot because I hate mechanical aliens. I wanted to keep within the same rounded shape feel to him, but over-exaggerate some features. I also thought it would be fun to theme him to music. To do this, I
Love
increased
it.
the size and shape of his legs to vaguely resemble speaker stacks. Instead of just straight up flying, he more so just kind of hovered across the ground using sound waves. And of course, that led me into tweaking the music theme just a little bit and pushing it more so into being inspired by jam skating. For those who don't know, I used to run a skating rink, and my brothers who were regulars there were professional jam skaters, meaning that they would break dance
yeah.
on
It's
skates.
impressive.
And when I came up with the idea to use jam skating, I just keep imagining
jam
how sick
and
it would
skate.
be if he goes ultimate
Can't
and then
jam
just starts
skate.
break
Can't do 'em
dancing.
both.
Like, come on, that would be cool. Now, in this instance, rather than taking one, I'm gonna be giving him an extra leg. Powers-wise, I'm actually going to be ditching the sound discs in turn for sonic paddles that are on his legs and his hands. These are meant to channel sound more accurately
Every
into
time I
focused
see, like, an
attacks
aux
rather than just large
cable
bursts.
or
He
a
can
cable
use this
hanging,
to
I'm like, I
send
love it.
sound waves through objects without damaging them and damaging something else on the other side of them, or for trying to pick up sound waves more accurately from further away, like trying to listen through a wall. And to add on another new power, I'm going to give him a thing that I call echo stitching, which gives him the ability to mimic and remix anything he hears.
I love it so much.
Quiet.
And just for the hell of it, I'm going to be tacking
Eric.
on super speed, because I imagine with the sound wave hovering that he does, the louder he gets, the faster he goes. He can even lift his back leg up and use it like a jetpack. Look, it may seem like I'm making him OP, which, honestly, I hate doing that with characters, but man, this dude deserves it. He's so damn cool. So, to recap, he now
Love
has
it.
super speed sonar skating, sound paddles, and echo stitching. As far as trade-offs, he is now blind and strictly uses echolocation. I am actually going to be keeping his duplication power, but limiting it to only like maybe 2 or 3 clones, and that's mainly because I want to see a group of these guys jam skating and doing a routine together.
Yes.
But other than that, may I present to you my redesigned Ultimate Echo Echo that I call Bass Kick.
Base kick. Oh, that's so perfect.
Ultimate Mega.
This one's my favorite so far.
Chill, dude. Ha, see what I did there?
Last up on the plate, today we are covering what could be the absolute most boring ultimate of all, and that's Big Chill. Base Big Chill is such a cool alien, and I'm not saying that to make a pun. His design is very simple, but also very solid, and the whole wing cloak is such an interesting idea. It helps convey the overall creepiness of this chilling ghost moth guy. So you can imagine the absolute disappointment that I felt when his ultimate was just a recolor. They trade in his cool icy blues for hot rod flames and say that his powers fire so cold that it burns? That doesn't make any sense. If it's meant to play into the fact that frostbite can feel like it's a burning sensation, that would be one thing. But they legitimately just make his ice look like fire, and that's it. He has the exact same powers. Arguably, they might be a little bit stronger, but this dude kept the same loadout and just equipped a different skin. So my complaints
I like the
aside,
drawing
with
look
my
like it
redesign,
looks like
I
it's
wanted to
already
go in a
leaning more
completely
into the
different
moth
direction. I did
section.
try really hard to stay within the fire theme, but I just could not come up with something that worked. Although, I did find this concept by ZyCC on Reddit that conveys a very different take on the fire power that I do think works really well. Good work on you, ZyCC, for making it actually really cool. But as far as my redesign, I didn't want to go too hot or too cold, but just right and make him be able to manipulate his temperature. I would say thanks to some kind of weird thermal gel that makes up his body now, he can increase or decrease the temperature around him. I'd say the range of it is probably like 100 feet. It is an ultimate after all, so we want to give him like some good wiggle room when it comes to power. And because of this new thermal shifting gel body, he now goes from intangibility capable to full-on density shifting, being able to solidify or disperse his body into fog. He rolls up as just a straight up bank of fog and just starts making it snow or rain or even become like overly humid and gross. With this in mind, I would say his temperature control does act a little bit like a weather manipulation ability, just on a much smaller scale. To go along with the temperature theme, I am also just going to straight up give him thermal vision. Big Chill would intentionally try to make an area colder so that he can seek out and look for warm signals to try to find enemies much easier. Now, he does still have his regular vision too, but he can like switch it on and off. Another thing I wanted to do with this design was play up the creepiness factor that regular Big Chill has normally. I leaned a lot more into the like moth elements of his design until I accidentally went straight into Mothman territory. Most of his face and wings are now covered in this thick fur that can change color based on the temperature around him. Like the fog starts rolling in and you just see this giant vague shape of a big creature and eyes just piercing through the fog. By default, I imagine that this fur would be white with gray and black bits, and this is meant to be more so inspired by real-life peppered moths, because they too use the coloration of their wings to camouflage. As far as additional powers, he can now manipulate the mist and fog that he creates by freezing precise bits of them into reflective ice vapors and create mist illusions. He can also now perform mass mitosis and spawn small swarms of his children from his underwings. This is meant to mimic the whole gimmick of like Dracula and vampires, how they can burst into like a swarm of bats or summon a swarm of bats from under their cape. I will say that these spawn are not sapiens. If anything, they act more like trained animals and will listen to commands from the ultimate Big Chill. His mouth is covered by fur normally, but whenever he does go to open it up, the fur kind of splits open like a seam and opens up this gigantic maw, similar to something you would see with like No Face from Spirited Away. So, to recap, he now has a temperature manipulation ability. He can also do small-scale weather manipulation and create mist illusions. He also has thermal vision and mass mitosis. As far as his trade-offs, I am going classic Ash and taking away his legs. May I present to you my redesigned ultimate Big Chill that I dub Shutter Swarm.
Very cool.
And with that, Alien Force Playlist 1 is finito. Definitely did not forget any. I would never forget an alien on a playlist. Definitely not avoiding any in particular.
No,
Did you like my redesigns,
sure.
or do you still prefer the originals? Let me know in the comments down below. Next episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and if you want to know what it is early, consider joining our Patreon. Also, make sure to check out the other links that we have in the
Become one of
description,
those
such as our
snazzy
Twitch channel, where you can hang with us
Patreon
while we
peoples.
work, and the links to my socials, where I'll be posting the albedo edits of these boys sometime later today. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I am Orash, and I'm surviving. Are you?
Trying to,
Peace.
buddy. Trying to. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a really good video. Excellent drawing matrix, a little bit different of a concept. My favorite powers-wise, because of how into music and stuff I am, was bass kick. But then my favorite finished ultimate design was the big chill one. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I really like this. I loved it, in fact. Did you like that or this or any of this? Leave a like. If you dislike that or this or any of this, be sure to leave a dislike if you just hate me or whatever. And until next time, WN stuff. Woo!
Sitting playing chess, bro. Started way back with my tragic anime backstory. That's what handcrafted me to go reach all of my glory. Always concentrate on moments and momentum mori. Drag up and I'm counting memories like it's inventory. I ain't got no time to waste. Been sleeping on